Okay, we're going to start off by melting 1 stick of butter, and 1 stick equals to half of a cup. This is the butter I'm using that I got from Sam's Club. So while this melts, we're going to go ahead and start getting our sugars. These are the brands that I'm using, the gold medal flour that I also got from Sam's in bulk, and I also buy my chocolate chips from there as well because it's just more cost effective to buy it in bulk. So now here you're going to be needing half of a cup of granulated sugar and half of a cup of brown sugar. Once you have it in our bowls, let's go ahead and check on the butter. It's halfway melted, so we're going to go. The reason I'm heating up my butter is because I like to brown it so it gives the cookies a more dark and richer flavor. So once it starts getting to melted, we're going to let it boil. Once you see it boiling like this, you want to go ahead and start adding in our sugars. The half a cup of light brown sugar and then our half a cup of granulated sugar. And we're going to go ahead and we just want to keep mixing it until everything's nice and incorporated and melted. And my recipe is super unique because a lot of people do not melt or brown their sugars or butter. But trust me, it's going to give it the best flavor. So once it starts looking like this and everything's melted down, we're going to go ahead and add in our vanilla extra. And we are using 1 teaspoon. And we're going to let it go ahead and boil. And once it starts to look like this, you're going to give it a quick mix. And that's how we know it's ready. So go ahead and turn off the heat and take it off the stove. And now we're going to be adding it into a bowl so it can cool down. I let mine cool for around 10 to 15 minutes. And while I was doing that, this is what it looks like once it's halfway cooled. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and start adding in our 1 egg. I know this recipe is so different than other chocolate chip recipes, but I promise this is so good and worth the time. So now we're going to go ahead and mix in our egg. And this is what it looks like once the egg's all mixed. It made it nice and creamy again. And it should look like this when you pick up the spatula. Now we're going to be adding in our salt. Here you can add more or less depending on your preference. And the same as our chocolate chips, I'm adding in half of a cup. You can add more or less depending on how many you like. And now this is the step where we're going to slowly mix it into our sugars. And I know I'm doing this so opposite how other people do it, but this is how I like to do this to be sure the chocolate chips really stick into that mixture. Now I'm going to be adding in my cup and a half of flour. Recipe will be in description box below. And I did not record this part, but I did add in my baking soda in with my flour. And you can also use baking powder. I really don't see no difference. I've used both. In this specific recipe that I did today, I used baking powder because I did not have any baking soda. And I know you all are not used to seeing recipes done like this. I completely did mine so different than the normal. But I promise it's going to be so good and worth it. If you all do decide to try this recipe, go ahead and let me know if you liked it or your thoughts about the recipe in the comments down below. Fun fact about me, I always need to have some chocolate chip cookie dough in my freezer ready for me to pop out anytime I feel like eating a cookie. Because I do not like store-bought chocolate chip cookies. I feel like if anything has to be homemade, it's going to have to be chocolate chip cookies. And the best thing is, it's very inexpensive to make chocolate chip cookies because you can make so many out of one recipe and they'll last you a while in the fridge. Okay, now that I'm done mixing it, this is what it looks like. It should look like this. It's not sticky at all. It's very workable. So once we get to this step, I'm going to go ahead and start adding it into a freezer Ziploc bag so it can pop in the fridge for about 15 minutes just so all those sugars and butters can all incorporate together. And this is the bags that I'm using. I just get them from Walgreens. Super, very inexpensive. So now that I've already popped it out of the fridge, it's been 15 minutes. I wrote them into medium-sized balls. And I'm going to be adding some extra chocolate chips on top because to give it a nice look and extra chocolate chips. This recipe, you can also add in some pecans or M&Ms or sprinkles. You can add whatever toppings you like because this recipe goes well with everything. And the best part is we're going to make these in our air fryer. Since I don't feel like turning on my oven for about 5 cookies. So here I'm going to be putting my air fryer on bake for around 270 for like 20 minutes. I'll put my final time on my screen up here of what I did cook them at. And this is what they look like halfway through. And the only way to know if they're good already is you're going to flip it around. Once they look like that, a little bit raw. Cook them for about 5 minutes more. And then take them out so they can cool down. And this is what they look like. And once they've cooled down, they look like this. And look at that. Oh my God. They have a nice chewy inside with a nice crispy outside. And it's just really the best freaking cookie. I promise you guys. And I also made a few with some M&Ms on top. And this is what the bottom looks like when I take them out, to be sure they're going to have that nice gooey middle. And I just put them into my cute little cookie basket. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you do try the recipe, go ahead and let me know in the comment box.